Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, we'll start.
That's us. Yeah.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the Housing Committee. I would remind all attendees that this meeting is being recorded and webcast live on the Council's YouTube channel. I have agreed the attendance of some members remotely and would remind all remote attendees to mute their microphones when not speaking. For any members of the public watching, please note that all the public committee reports, including details of specific recommendations, are available on the Council's website. Apologies for absence.
Yes, thank you, Convener. We have an apology from Councillor Durno with Councillor Brace substituting.
Thank you. Declarations of interest or statements of transparency? Nope, none. 3 minutes of the previous meeting. Sorry.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, it's just on item 9 around the open fires and the wood burning stoves. I remembered the debate that we had, and as a representative of quite a large rural ward, I had made a particular point, and I just wondered if it could be captured in the minutes, please. On page 7, under the paragraph that starts to support this, it might sit at the end of that paragraph saying, whilst being mindful of rural fuel poverty, the need for warmth to protect health and resilience in power outages.
Okay.
Does that seem fair?
So ordinarily, if there's an amendment to a minute, then that's required via a motion, but if members are agreed here today, then we can capture that in the minute.
Yeah, agreed.
I think
everybody
we should
agreed?
this particular one, Chair.
Yeah. Thank you. 4. Moving on to the Strategic Housing Investment Plan, and Catherine Johnson will introduce.
Thanks, Convener. This report presents the Strategic Housing Investment Plan for the period 2026-27 to 2030-31, setting out the strategic investment priorities for affordable housing to be delivered by the Council and our housing association partners. The SHIP estimates delivery of around 370 units over its lifetime, with a programme that's intended to deliver a balanced approach to meeting demand across Angus. Members will be aware that the Scottish Government made a recent announcement to return to multi-year funding for local authorities through the Affordable Housing Supply Programme, which is much welcomed. However, the announcement on levels of funding being made available to each local authority, including Angus, will not be made until after the spending review. Finally, the SHIP has already been submitted to the Scottish Government in draft form due to the deadline for submission being ahead of the committee today. If approval is given today, we will update that to a final version. I can answer any questions from members and have my colleagues June McCallum and Jackie Adamson here in the chamber and online. Thank you.
Okay, any questions from anyone? Councillor Whiteside.
Thanks, Convener. I was also pleased to see the announcement of the multi-year funding for the RPA. That'll be really helpful when we find out the figures. My question is around about the uncommitted balance of the AHRA. It seems quite healthy. I wondered how that compares to previous years and whether there's more that we could be doing with that this year.
Yes, thanks for the question, Councillor Whiteside. The balance is similar to what it has been in previous years, because that funding is not guaranteed funding. It's very much dependent on the income that's generated through either developer contributions or through the council tax receipts that are ring-fenced for affordable housing and come into the affordable housing revenue account. We keep that balance relatively strong so that we can draw on that over the lifetime of the capital plan, because it allows us to then plan that money over a 4 or 5 year period, which is the reason that we tend to keep a relatively healthy balance in that account.
Councillor Devine.
Thanks, Convener. I've got a couple of things. I hope that's okay. It's just a very small one on number 10 on page 11. It's environmental implications. Now, you say that the SHIP supports strategic investment in housing that contributes to environmental sustainability and net zero targets. I was just wondering if there was any chance that we could ensure that there is something in there about biodiversity targets that, in the surrounding areas, of new build houses, we could make sure that there is sustainability going on there, biodiversity on there. That would be really helpful for the bees. And then page 25, it was about Balmuir. Obviously, we're waiting around for to hear about the negotiated stopping pilot. But that area, is there any kind of reimagining going to be going on in that area, do you think? Because it's so near the A90, it must be really noisy. And I haven't been there, but I don't think it's a particularly lovely place. So I just wondered if there's negotiations going on between Dundee and ourselves for that one.
There is ongoing discussion with our colleagues in Dundee in relation to that site and the best use of that site. There isn't any active negotiation in terms of whether or not that's the right location. As you say, there is still some considerations at a national level around how do we best assess the needs and make the best sites available for the travelling community. So there aren't any active ongoing discussions at this point in terms of that. We are doing further work to assess within Angus whether we're seeing an upturn in terms of encampments within the Angus area and what that might mean in terms of the need for stopping sites or transition sites, and we'll take all of that into account on an ongoing basis.
Okay, I've got Councillor Speed and then Councillor Clark. Councillor Speed, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, thank you, Convener. It was with regards to the Scottish Government and they're set to introduce Scottish Accessible Homes Standards. I just wondered if you could provide a kind of brief update as to where that's at and how Angus Council will kind of be able to then, I guess, implement that into, I guess, perhaps planning permissions that might already be approved, as well as in future going forward. And I had another wee question, and it was just around the underspend in terms of conversions. If I could just have a wee update on that as well, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Speed. In terms of the accessible housing standard, we are still, as you say, awaiting guidance from the Scottish Government on that. So we're not in a position to update our own standards until we know what's going to be in that national standard. But certainly, where we can then incorporate things at a later date, if we already are at the stage of having received planning permission, we will try to do that. We have for some time been working to a relatively high standard in Angus anyway. We've always tried to, where we're looking at wheelchair or accessible housing, reach the highest standard that we can with our own standard specification. So I would hope that it is broadly in line with whatever's going to come through the review of the Housing for Varying Needs. But of course, we'll take every opportunity that we can to enhance that if there are things that aren't within our own standards as soon as that's made available from the Scottish Government. Your second question was in terms of conversions.
Yeah, I just note that there's an underspend in terms of conversions. Is that, have I interpreted that correctly? I just wondered what the reasons for that were, given the shortages.
Yeah, certainly. There has been an underspend in terms of conversions, and it's mainly to do with the opportunities that we've had to bring these projects forward and the resources actually that have to go into bringing them to fruition. If I could just hand over to my colleague Ewan McCallum, he'll be able to say a bit more about what's in the pipeline.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Councillor Speed. Yes, we do. We still have a programme of conversions proceeding throughout the year as well. But as Catherine's alluded to, we have had issues both in terms of internal resource and with contractors in terms of progressing the works as well. These projects by nature tend to be quite intricate in terms of their delivery because you're pulling apart houses and reassembling them almost pre-existing houses as well. So it's actually more complicated than new build. Currently within the programme this year, we've delivered a conversion at Prosen Road in Kirriemuir, and we are currently on site in doing a conversion in South Street in Forfar to convert 4 flats into 2 houses. And similarly, beyond that, we've then got another 4 properties in Croft Terrace and Kirriemuir that are due to be converted into 2 houses next year. And we're about to go out to tender for a project at Provost Reid Road in Montrose as well. So there is still an ongoing programme, but the reasons for the underspends are really down to resource and contractor issues.
Convener, can I just have a wee follow-up? Is that okay with just on the conversions?
Yeah, go for it.
And it was, yeah, thank you so much. I just wondered why Arbroath, hasn't been considered for conversions, given the need and demand in Arbroath.
It's
And is
very
that
much
something that might be considered going forward?
Yeah, certainly it's very much led by opportunity and by the opportunities that come forward to us. I can maybe hand over to Gordon Nicholl, who can say a bit more about the stock profile in Arbroath and where the suitability of those has occurred.
Hello, Councillor Speed, thank you very much for that. Really, it comes down to whether or not there is properties available that fit in with your sort of conversion options. We've done previous ones around Bruce Road, Priory Crescent, but it does depend on whether or not we get a flat adjacent to one another or above and below, and it really comes down to the opportunities when there's turnover of stock.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. We'll go on to Councillor Clark now.
Thank you, Convener. Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, Callum, would that we had DLO right now then, eh? Right, okay. Just looking here on various pages, Convener, if you'll indulge me for a minute. 5.2 on page 9, Catherine. For me, I'm reading this and we achieved 100% spend. Now, that's something to be commended. Well done. Now, obviously, as you read it, there's a wee bit of a downside there. It ain't something you could have done anything about. For me, 100% spend of our affordable housing supply. I really worry about the housing crisis. Wouldn't be here otherwise. So I want to congratulate you there. Now, if I go on to page 10 and I speak about things like off the shelf, now I'm a wee bit that way myself, quite maverick in how I look at things. I like to see this. I think to purchase additional units for social rent, virtually in whatever way we can get them legally. That's fine by me. So once again, to just highlight that. And again on 5.5, repurposing existing stock to meet the needs of our applicants. Well, that's, we know, and a small role within the SHIP, conversion projects, we're speaking about that. We need that. Just this morning, if you'll indulge me, Chair, we put through a couple of planning applications, which will address in some small way the kind of things we need to do to look after everybody that we're representing. That, and I'm proud of what Angus is trying to do. So before we get too swell-headed about it, there might be something else that I'm not so happy about, but these things I think need to be highlighted. So well done.
Councillor Clark, that was comments. It's fine. No, but I was just going to wait to say comments, but you've already got there.
I could have said to you at the end, would you like to comment on that? But, Chair, by the look of his face, there's no need to comment.
No.
Very sorry to mix you up. I was trying to prove that I'm actually listening.
That's absolutely fine. So moving on, does anybody have any comments after Councillor Clark? Thank you. Councillor Bell.
Thank you. My comment was around the conversions in Kirriemuir. I'm really pleased to see that these have been achieved, and I saw them recently on a couple of walkarounds I've undertaken with officers. Really helpful, and it's helpful to hear from officers as well how that has helped them accommodate people on the list. So thank you for that. Really good pieces of work.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councillor Speed.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was just as a follow-up to my questions, and just really a kind of plea to ask Angus to do whatever they can to perhaps speed up the Housing for Varying Needs review, because I think the last thing that we want is to especially be developing and building new homes for access needs to then find that actually we perhaps could have maximised those opportunities better. So I think anything that can be done to influence that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Moving on to number 5, item number 5. It's the Housing Service Digital Roadmap.
Just to get the recommendations.
Oh, so I've not even, oh my goodness. Sorry, we're all tired and I'm totally forgetting about the recommendations. Right, so the recommendations on number 4 are approve the content of the SHIP 2026-27 to 30-31 and delegates authority to the service leader housing for ongoing development of the SHIP and its associated programme plans and procedures with the council and partners during the lifetime of the plan. Are we all agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. And now moving on to number 5, the Housing Service Digital Roadmap 25 to 30, and Catherine will introduce. Thank you.
Thanks, Convener. This report seeks approval for the Housing Service Digital Roadmap, as you say, for the period 2025 to 2030. The roadmap aligns closely with the Housing Service Improvement Plan, which was approved in September by this committee, and sets out the milestones to deliver a modern, efficient and inclusive housing service. You'll see from the report that there are 4 priorities which focus on system development, our customer-facing services and inclusion, asset management and digital tools, learning and development. I have colleagues here, Gordon Nicholl and Lindsay Day, to answer any specific questions on the plan, and we're happy to answer these now.
Councillor Gregg and then Councillor Melville.
Thank you, Convener. With the digital roadmap, can I ask Catherine, can we just confirm that there will be no impact at all to any accessibility, and that this is an addition and not rather than just to face-to-face, so that there will be that full accessibility?
Yes, certainly, Councillor Gregg. This is about digital being an option for delivery and not a requirement. So we recognise that we have tenants that have got different requirements and levels of confidence in terms of using digital tools. And so this is about improving that choice rather than replacing the option of services that are already there, but also allowing our resources to be focused on those tenants that are most in need of the services. So where tenants can access services digitally, particularly for those most straightforward inquiries and services that they want from us, then by doing that in a digital way allows us to use our resources for the more complex inquiries and those tenants who are most vulnerable and need the most from us. So absolutely, this is about choice and not requirement.
Councillor Melville.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. And in the same vein, you'll recall that I was talking about an online direct debit and have been for some time. I can see that that's included in here, and just was looking for an update as to how many tenants are now using that system and what the feedback has been so far.
Yeah, thanks. We have been working quite hard to get that up and running. I don't have the figures on how many people are using it now, but I can certainly get that information and feedback to you.
Thank goodness for your digital forum, Councillor Melville. It's been a long time coming, and I know you've raised it many times, so thank you for that. Is there any comments from anyone? Oh, it's Lois. Councillor Bell and then Councillor Speed for questions. We're not on comments yet.
Thanks. Yeah, obviously the paper makes a remark around the small number of respondents to consultation, which is a bit of a concern. But in terms of the people who don't feel confident using online services, are they being signposted to support for like adult learning kind of opportunities, and who does that sit with? Is that internal within the council or college, or do we have the resources to meet that level of demand so that we build up that level of confidence for people? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that question. The survey itself was designed to capture the views of tenants who are already using housing online. around those aims about the roadmap, helping us to explore the best uses for it and how people want to interact with us digitally. But in terms of that support for tenants, we do have mechanisms in place, particularly through the communities team with that kind of learning sessions and digital inclusion services, and we signpost people to there. We also support people when they're contacting us through either through the contact centre or in the access at the access line, to be able to support people through, rather than just giving them information, but actually then helping them to access that information for themselves. So we have various ways of doing that, and that's something that we'd be hoping to expand as we increase the services that we're making available digitally.
Councillor Speed, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I guess some of the concerns or questions that I have already been asked in terms of kind of digital exclusion and inclusion of those that may kind of experience the greatest barriers and perhaps require a bit more support. I guess as much as I appreciate the benefits of, you know, the digital strategy and pathway, I'm just a little bit concerned that there isn't and although it does, you know, recognise the need for those alternative offline services and supports face-to-face and through the telephone, I'm just a little bit concerned that it doesn't really kind of give enough weight to that need. It recognises that it's there, and more people are seeking those alternative methods, but it doesn't give as much weight to it. And I just wondered if there's anything that can be done to I guess just ensure that it doesn't get lost. And perhaps if we could all see kind of like in action the new systems in action, I think would be really beneficial as well, so that we can see the differences within the housing management and other parts of the software at some point, not right now.
Thanks for that, Councillor Speed, and I appreciate the concerns that you're raising, and absolutely they are at the forefront of our minds as well, in terms of making sure that our service is available in the form that those people that need it most are able to access it. I think it's important to remember that this digital roadmap is not just about how tenants and customers interact with us. It's also about the whole delivery of our service, and about how our staff use the systems, and about how our systems interact with each other. So although we're talking a lot here about the customer facing bit of it, that is only a relatively small part of the overall digital roadmap and our housing improvement plan, because it's really about making sure that the systems work best for us, and that we're getting the most out of the systems that we have, so that our resource can be used in the most efficient way possible. And all of that then points back to us being able to provide the best possible service that we can to those customers who need it.
Thank you. It's Mr. O'Brien next.
Thank you, Convener. It's just a question. It's page 63, 12.3. It mentions about using other community groups to get the message out there. I'm just wondering what community groups they are, as at the moment there's only, I think, 2 or possibly 3 actual tenant participation groups in Angus. So I'm just wondering, and also following on from that, is what other alternatives are there for tenants who may not prefer a digital engagement?
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, in terms of the opportunities that are available for tenants, as I've said in the previous answers, this isn't about taking away ways of accessing the service that are there already. It's about providing alternatives for those that are seeking a digital solution, and also making sure then that we are able to use the digital services and systems that we have to the most effectiveness. In terms of other community groups, I could maybe hand over to Lindsay Day to give a bit more information on that.
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. Thanks, Brian. So the other groups that we engaged with included kind of the informal groups that have been set up. So they're maybe not our formal tenant participation sort of registered groups, but we've got groups in communities, including Montrose and in the different sheltered housing complexes in Angus. So the tenant participation officers engaged with them. The lead officers for the digital roadmap, they also came along to our tenant participation group, and we were able to get your views from that group as well.
Thanks very much. Any further questions before we go into comments? which is Councillor Clark. She's not confused me this time.
I'm a wee bit better this time, thanks very much. I am quite tired, believe it or not. Catherine, I suppose, just following on from my friend at the back, Mr O'Brien, I'm looking at 12.3 there and thinking in terms of, I think you've got it in there. You're speaking about the partner teams such as social work, because a lot of people that we are speaking about may well be vulnerable in other areas. So if we've got our social work partners and we've got health and social care, we've maybe got health visitors if they still have the time. But I do think that, and this is just a comment on this sort of thing, maybe elected members at times could be able to do things as well. Maybe, and we do actually signpost people to things, and maybe even our very, very good volunteer centre colleagues, because whatever way we can help with this, a lot of people will struggle with digital technology. But I still would commend again, the fact that you can write that in there just does comfort me. Really it does. And I will not always be comforted, but today I seem to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Speed.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I would just like to see perhaps a very simplified roadmap, if you like, that accompanies this or is a separate bit of work. And I'm not asking for a lot of work to be done, but I do feel that in terms of like digital, this digital age that we're living in, that those alternatives are being lost in the offer when people get in touch with the council or when they turn up to a service or support. I think they're automatically signposted to online. And I think those with complex needs, they often need, that human touch and support to help them to navigate. So I think it would be good if we just had something that constantly sent out a reminder that it is still very much part of the way that we work and the way we deliver services to still be mindful of those other offers.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments from anyone? Councillor Proctor.
Thank you very much, Convener. I actually just happened to listen to the questions and answers that have been given, that there is reassurance for people like me, elderly folk who are not so familiar and competent with the digital equipment. So I think actually getting that assurance, despite what people have said, I think it's actually comforting. And for that, I thank them.
Thank you, Councillor Proctor. Mike, would you like to go ahead?
Thank you, Convener. Just quickly a comment. I personally demonstrated housing online to a group of 23 tenants, all over 26, so about the same age as me. Universally, the tenants were very interested and thought that it was a good idea. However, they all felt that they personally were incapable of using it. But we recognise the fact that a large percentage of the tenants, residents in Angus, are able to use technology. And I think if the improvement of the systems means a more linked up and unified approach, it will make things simpler for the majority. And then we have to address the needs of those people that are not capable of using the technology.
I would wholeheartedly agree. My doctor's surgery has an online option. So for something simple, it's very easy. It frees up. I'm not then sitting on the phone line at 8:30 in the morning, and it frees up that line for somebody else. So I think it's a fantastic idea, and it's in addition to what we already offer. It's not an instead of. Anyway, is that everybody done? We'll move on to the recommendations. Yep. So recommendations, 1, approve the Housing Service Digital Roadmap 25 to 30 as contained in Appendix 1. And 2, delegates authority to the Service Leader Housing for ongoing development and refinement of the roadmap to reflect emerging priorities, technologies and tenant and staff needs. Are all agreed? Agreed. Thank you. So we'll move on now to item number 6. So future, I can't even speak now. Future of flood affected Angus Council housing in Brechin, phase 1 engagement on relocation remodelling options. And Catherine will introduce.
Thanks, Convener. This report sets out the outcome of the first phase of engagement on relocation or remodelling options for properties in the Brechin River Street area which were affected by flooding as a result of Storm Babette. The initial phase was specifically designed to engage with Angus Council, current and former tenants, as well as private owners living in those mixed tenure blocks. This was to ensure that the Council can fulfil its statutory obligations to consult with its tenants when considering the future of its assets. The report also seeks approval to commence phase 2 of the engagement plan, which will include feasibility work and wider consultation with the community surrounding the Council's properties, ensuring that the final solution takes account of a range of views and can have a positive impact on the post-storm recovery of Brechin. And I have my colleague Claire Greenhill here, and we can answer any questions that members may have.
Oh, Councillor Whiteside. Thank you.
Thanks, Convener. Thanks, Catherine. I'd like to start off by acknowledging the huge amount of work that's gone into the consultation, and not just within the council, but in the wider area and involving private tenants and things as well. And I'm doing that because I feel my question might come across a bit negatively, but I think looking from the outside to maybe people who live in Brechin and have been affected by this, they may be disappointed, I feel, by the ambition and the scale of the work that is proposed and the time scale of the work that's proposed. I think they'll be looking at the dates that are mentioned at 7.3, for example, about any new building and feeling maybe a bit let down by that. The other point I wanted to make was the balance of people whose preference is to remain in the River Street area compared to those that wanted to relocate either within Brechin or Outwith. It's very close. It's only less than 2% between the total who want to remain and the total who would rather relocate. So I'm just a little bit concerned that all of the focus in this report is on rebuilding the River Street area.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Whiteside, and 2 really important points. Well, I'll come to the first one in terms of dates and what the plans might be. As we've outlined in the report, we're now coming into looking at that kind of feasibility of options for rebuilding in the River Street area, if that is if it is feasible and if that is the preferred outcome. The dates that are in 7.3 are very much set around what is in the capital plan at the moment. So that doesn't mean that there isn't an opportunity to bring things in earlier if this committee wants to reprioritise what is in the 5-year plan that we have. So that opportunity will come up when we come to rent setting in February, and it will come up each time we review the capital plan. So although we're saying that the capital plan is currently committed, that doesn't mean that there are not opportunities to reprioritise what's in there. And we're doing that work at the moment in terms of what the next 5-year plan will look like and what opportunity there will be to bring additional projects in, and that will come before committee in February. So absolutely opportunities to discuss that over this period and then when we bring that report. In terms of the future options, if I could maybe hand over to my colleague Claire Greenhill, who can talk about that a bit further.
Just around phase 2? Yeah. So we have a plan for just after committee. So our plan is, between November and mid-January is when we're going to do that dedicated work around the design and feasibility work, so that come February we will be able to go out to full consultation, not just with the tenants but all the residents in that area, and let them see what that might look like for them and what that outcome is. And then we would hope, because we've done the design and feasibility works, that by February we will have an indication of whether we know what properties we may need to demolish and what properties we may not, and we'd be able to bring an interim report back to committee in February regarding that. Our consultation work could continue on during that period of time, and then we're hoping that around May time we would be coming back to committee for a full decision on the situation.
Any further questions from anyone? Nope. Any comments? Nope. Okay. So moving on to the recommendations. Make sure I'm on the right one. Notes and gives due regard and consideration to the findings from Phase 1 engagement outlined in the report Appendix 1. 2. Agrees that officers progress to Phase 2. 3. Requests that officers report back to committee with a set of costed deliverable options for decision, including financial implications and House and Revenue Account and Capital Plan. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. So now we'll move on to number 7, House and Capital Monitoring Report. And again, it's Catherine to introduce.
Thank you, Convener. This report provides an update on the Housing Capital Monitoring Report to the end of September with the actuals and the projections to the end of March of 2026. The report outlines a projected underspend of around 900,000, with a table in section 6 providing a breakdown of the projected over and underspends by programme area. I have colleagues from Finance and Housing Assets here today, and we're happy to answer any questions that members may have.
Any questions from anyone? Oh, Councillor Doran.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to ask a little bit more about the underspend. I know there's some detail in the report, but it'd be good to hear a little bit more about that. And I just wanted to also clarify for the development in Montefieth, is that development going forward? I see the projection is for March 2026. Is it dependent on that further funding, or can it go ahead without that, or does that need to be in place in order for things to start moving? Thank you.
Thanks for your questions. I'll just hand that over to my colleague Ewan McCallum.
Thanks, Catherine. Thanks, Councillor Doran. Yes, so in terms of the question about the project in Montefieth, which assumes Inverte House, that is funded, that's fully funded, and we expect that to go ahead as per programme in March. It's actually out to tender at the moment, and we expect to get tenders back on the 1st of December. So it's all systems go on that one. But it is, if the funding you're referring to is the Tay City Steel funding, then that would be an additional bonus to that project, effectively. Yeah, so it's still intended to go ahead with that. In terms of the other question you had, if there was other specific areas you wanted to ask about, I'd be happy to give you detail in terms of underspend.
Thanks. Yeah, just to clarify a bit more. So within the paper, I'm just going to get it up on page 116. It was more about the spend on we kind of covered the ones on aids and adaptations, I think. And then there was one for the energy savings, zero carbon.
Yeah, so in terms of the energy savings towards zero carbon, we're actually predicting a slight overspend on that area of the capital plan, and that's a reflective of an acceleration in the rate of delivery on our window replacement programme. And of course, overspends are always questionable, but I think this is a positive because it means that more of our tenants are getting much needed energy efficiency upgrades ahead of time as well. So that one's actually, we're flagging that up because we're predicting a slight overspend in that area.
Do you want to say a bit more about the underspend in relation to adaptations? I think it's maybe worth just pointing out in terms of the adaptations, our current budget is £1.2 million per annum, and that was increased just after COVID to allow us to catch up from the kind of lack of progress in terms of carrying out adaptations on council properties for that period of time during COVID. So we upped that budget from 1 million to 1.2 million. So what we're projecting in this report is closer to that 1 million, which is the kind of pre-COVID budget. It is a demand-led service, and so we work very closely with the Health and Social Care Partnership in terms of making sure that those adaptations are carried out as quickly as possible. The projections that we have seen for October, in terms of the actual spend in October, does look like we may not be underspent by much in that area. It's important to remember that we are just here looking at 6 months of the year, so it is fairly early to be able to say that we're in a kind of definitive over or underspend position, and certainly adaptations, as I say, for the position that we're looking at the moment, when we take into account the October figures that we've seen, it does look like we may be much closer to that 1.2 million than it's showing in this report.
Thank you.
Thanks. We've got Councillor Bell and then Councillor Speed.
Thanks, Convener. I was going to say how pleased I was to see the energy savings overspend, actually, for the reasons that Ewan has outlined. And I just wondered if we could get an update on where we are in that programme, what sort of percentage are left to do, and when's the completed timescale. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I think, well, we're working towards reaching the net zero targets by 2045. So in terms of specific granular detail about where we are with our EWI programme, which is probably part of your question as well, I can go back and get more exact figures, and I would happily, as I've done previously, share that with the group so we can just track exactly where we are. But we're making really good progress on that front, you know, and that's been a contract that over the last 5 years since it was let has really got through a large number of properties and upgrades, and we're regularly meeting the targets in that area as well. So yeah, in terms of that more granular detail, I'd be happy to give you that in a, you know, as a follow-up, if that's okay.
Councillor Speed.
Yeah, thank you. It was in relation to bathroom replacement. You might recall that I've raised a couple of times around perhaps the need to not just consider a bathroom as in a bath replacement, but also to take those opportunities to maximise our stock in terms of accessibility and kind of level access showering. I think there was an acknowledgement and agreement that would be considered, and I just wondered if there has been any conversions. I know that there's less than perhaps was anticipated and hoped, but has there been any that have actually received a level access shower as opposed to a bath to help maximise that property? And my other question was just an update in terms of sheltered housing. There was to be work to look at having a maintenance plan for sheltered housing and perhaps a dedicated kind of portfolio for that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Speed. In terms of the bathroom programme, when we're doing that initial discussion with tenants, we do take an opportunity to discuss whether or not the bathroom meets their current needs and whether or not there are any adaptation requirements, and to carry those out. We certainly, if there is a requirement for an adaptation, we certainly don't replace a like-for-like bathroom. We would always take that opportunity to provide something that meets their assessed needs. So we would involve our colleagues from the Health and Social Care Partnership, and they work closely with our housing staff where there are tenants that you know, their bathroom doesn't meet their current needs, and our Health and Social Care Partnership colleagues are involved in that bathroom replacement programme. So that certainly does happen. In terms of the numbers where that's happened, I would have to get that level of detail for you. I don't have that, but I'm sure that's something that we would be able to find out for you and share. The sheltered housing programme, we do carry out works within the sheltered housing complexes. As you know, we've been doing a lift replacement programme recently. We do have plans to do a further review of our sheltered housing offering to make sure that we are clear what our vision for providing housing for older people in Angus is. And part of that will be around looking at the condition and suitability of our sheltered housing complexes to make sure that all of those are meeting the standards that we would expect. And when further maintenance or investment is required there, then that will be brought forward in further capital plans.
Thank you, Councillor Speed. We'll go with Councillor Clark and then Councillor Proctor.
Thank you, Convener. Again, sorry. In 7.3, we mentioned aids and adaptations, and you mentioned your projected underspend. The wee bit next here, the service is demand-led, and the number of referrals coming through has reduced. And you speak about the 6 months' time that you're thinking about there, Catherine. Now, I would have to say that I'm surprised at that, because a lot of people have been in touch with me through my surgery, etc., and I've been able to try and help them. Really. So I am quite surprised at that. It's not that I don't believe it, I'm just a wee bit surprised. But I'd like to just throw a random grenade in here, just for a minute. In that we've got lots and lots of people who no longer can manage the stairs in their homes. And that means we've got then a glut of people on Eden. We spoke about this fleetingly this morning. You know, they didn't need stairs, they didn't need stairs going up, whatever. And I just wonder if there's, I know that stair lifts are quite expensive, but I just wonder if at some point somebody could look at that and see if we could possibly do that, or if you've got any information on it, because I do a surgery at the Legion, and there's a lot of people there trying to get a house, and I've spoken to them about stair lifts, because that might be an answer, because we haven't got a house for everybody.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, certainly stair lifts are something that we will consider where the house generally meets somebody's long-term needs, and the stairs are the the only barrier then to allowing them to access the upstairs floors and make sure that they can get access to bedrooms or bathrooms or whatever that is. The stair lifts are provided through the Health and Social Care Partnership, so we have an arrangement whereby the assessments for stair lifts are delivered through the Health and Social Care Partnership, and that's taking a kind of multi-tenure approach. So they can use the same assessment criteria regardless of whether or not you're an owner occupier or a council tenant. They use the same assessment criteria for that. They're probably one of the more complicated adaptations to carry out, just because they are very dependent on the property, and some stairs themselves are not suitable to have a stair lift installed, but also they are not suitable for everybody. So there are some specific vulnerabilities that people have that might mean that a stair lift is not the right answer for them. And in those cases, we would always then use that information when we're considering somebody's application for rehousing, if the property isn't suitable to have a stair lift installed.
It's complex answer as usual. Thank you.
Councillor Proctor.
Thank you, Convener. My question is, we mentioned in the underspend there might be, problems with setting and letting contracts, and maybe even availability of workforce. What's the sort of percentage have we got that sort of brings that about?
Sorry, could you just expand a little bit in terms of?
Well, you mentioned earlier on. You said that it was due to the fact that some of the work was still to be done, and a lot of that is probably with the inability to set or maybe let a contract, and maybe the availability of contractors or workforces. So how big a part of that is involved in the underspend?
Yeah, sorry. I understand. In terms, you're speaking in terms of the contractor capacity and our ability to attract capacitors. Yeah, that is certainly something that we've been paying a lot of attention to. I can maybe hand over to you, McCallum, who can give a little bit more detail just in terms of the impact that's having on the current contracts going through.
Certainly, Catherine, I'd be happy to. Well, actually, I would say I think we're seeing a slight improving picture in terms of contractor resource and capacity. We use different methodologies, as sort of horses for courses. For the smaller contracts, certainly we try our best to promote the circular economy and utilise local contractors. However, for some of the bigger ones, we've engaged with the local contractors. It's just been beyond them. We're definitely seeing that some of the local contractors are struggling to take that next step up. Our new build programme is a good example of that, because we've adopted an approach that went through committee, brought a PAR report to use the Scotland Excel framework that Angus Council invested in as well. And at that point, we engaged with local contractors and said, here's an opportunity. And unfortunately, none of them were able to bid for that work. But for the smaller scale work, I think we are seeing a slight improving picture, and certainly we're getting a good amount of tenders. It's just sometimes, I think, like I said about the conversions, you get into the nitty gritty, the intricacy, and that's where you find that it's actually the project on its own right that's slowing down.
Councillor Brace.
Yes, thanks, Convener. Just coming in on the back of that, when it comes to these contracts that we're hoping smaller contractors will be able to take on, are we actively trying to break down the contracts into smaller parcels so that people may be able to bid for them and get them?
Yes, certainly there are contracts where we take that approach. Some of them. So here's a good example actually, because it allows me to talk about the bathroom replacement. So we many years ago brought forward a paper to do a bulk bathroom replacement programme, and that allowed us to do big numbers, or it's now allowing us to do big numbers of bathrooms, and we see an economy of scale there where the tender prices we get through that are significantly lower. So the cost per bathroom is significantly less than we're seeing on the kitchen contract. So the kitchen contract is a smaller scale one. We've deliberately done that so that we can utilise the local contractors there as well. So it's just what we're finding is that once you get to that bigger scale of contracts, it seems to be that the local contractor pool are struggling to make that jump up. But yeah, it's a real where we can. So let's say the kitchen replacement would be one example. Conversions is another example. You know, there's a number of these smaller programmes of work where we've tried our best, and we're engaging with our procurement team. Earlier this year, we hosted a session where we were engaging about a new repairs contract, and we invited local contractors to that as well. And the intention is that we're going to follow that up with regular sessions with local contractors, just to try and say, look, announce, just sort of advertise, and you know, shout from the rooftops what we've got coming up over the next while.
Thanks. Just to come back on that, and maybe this isn't really a question, but it's really important to keep in mind that, you know, we have to get value for money. Of course we do. But if we don't get the work done, we're never going to get value for money. If we have big scale contractors having to do it at a much lower rate, and then they didn't get the work done, and the work that they do get done all has to be done again because it's done at a shoddy standard. Well, that is not value for money. It cannot be value for money. So we really do need to be careful that we are getting people who are going to be able to do the work and do it to the standard that we require for our tenants. And still be getting value for money, but it doesn't need to, you know, cheapest isn't always best. We should all know that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I've just come back on that, Kenny, say I absolutely agree with that. And you've mentioned similar in previous committees, and I can just say that I've reflected that to our procurement team.
Thank you. Anybody got any comments? We're moving on to comments. Yeah, Councillor Fotheringham.
Thank you, Convener. Yes, I'm delighted to hear that Inverty House will be starting in the spring of next year. And as Mr McCallum said, it's fully funded. It was my old primary school, and it's certainly looking in a very sad state at the moment. So it would be good to see it back in use. Thank you.
Any further comments? Nope. Nobody down there? No. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll move on to recommendations. 1. Reviews the recommendations. Reviews and scrutinises the content of this report, in particular the projected year-end positions on the capital expenditure and the indicative funding proposals for the programme end, and notes the projected outturn underspend position as described in 6.1. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Thanks very much. That's the end of the Housing Committee. Thank you all for coming.
Can we start the stream, please?